Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. Hope you're having a great day, and I hope this video can make it a little bit better for you. Today we're going to be doing our Ambessa guide, so let's just jump right into it. As you can see, we have our level 41 with 6 stars, played her a good amount. Let's just jump into her card first. So 4 cost, Noxus, 5/3, so pretty good stat lines. You can immediately trigger things like Trifarian with that 5 power threshold. Really nice, and she has barrier as well as challenger, which also is pretty great. Each round, the first time I kill an enemy, create a midnight raid in hand, and then the level up is you've attacked 5 times. So at first, that midnight raid, you can see right here, slow speed, 0 cost, an ally starts a free attack. Now this is really nice because it gives you another attack. That attack will count towards your level up. Also note with this level up is just you've attacked 5 times. It is not I've seen you attack 5 times. So any attacks you do while Ambessa's not on the board are still counting towards her level up. So you can level her up pretty consistently in that mid game. Now the fact that she has barrier and challenger is really good because you can then play her on the defensive turn, freely block with her, and she'll be fine. And then if she gets a kill, she does that midnight raid. But you can also drop her when you have the attack token. And with that barrier and challenger, you can be sure she can grab an enemy, kill them, and then be able to attack again with that midnight raid. So overall, very solid. When she levels, now each round, the first time I kill an ally, rally. So now instead of just one unit having a free attack, all of your units can attack, which is solid. Now her champion spell, also very good. A little bit expensive, but that does get reduced down. So 6 cost slow, an ally strikes an enemy. If it dies, rally. Now this is good in a couple different ways for you. For one, it's giving you another way to rally. It's giving you some more removal. And you can use this with your Ambessa so that if she's not leveled, because once she's leveled, then the rally effect is kind of going to be wasted if you have her kill a target. But you can use this on Ambessa before she's leveled to kill an enemy and generate the midnight raid. Now, if you're playing Ambessa and you have other units on the board, you could use this on one of your other units, let them get a kill, you get a rally, and then when you attack, you can let Ambessa challenge another unit, kill them, and then get another rally, because this is the first time I kill an enemy. So she specifically has to kill the target to get this rally or this midnight raid. Overall, very solid champion, but let's move on and look at her Constellation. So taking a look at just the powers first, when an ally attacks, grant allies with the same name everywhere 1 power. So this same name, it essentially means all of the same card. So when you attack with like your Ambessa, all other copies of Ambessa and her herself also are getting that 1 power. And this is everywhere. So in hand, play, deck, in discard, or even if it's created or summoned later. Anytime you have that unit for the rest of the game, it is going to get this buff. So really solid, and this is very fun because it's focusing on you playing the same types of cards over and over again. So this can pair really well with some champions that summon a lot of the same units. So like Elise with all of your Spiderlings, all of those being able to attack and buff up all other copies of the Spiderlings, or like Aurelia with her blades. It is really interesting and a great way to get some scaling off. Also note that if you have 2 of the same card attack, they will both trigger this effect. So you really want to double down on having a lot of the same card specifically, which I think is a lot of fun. Anyways, your 2-star +1 starting mana, round start, create a conscription in hand if you already haven't reduced its cost by 1. So that conscription, 4 cost slow, so this is great for slow but steady, but summon a exact copy of an allied follower. Now this is a exact copy, so anything that that follower has, like if it's stunned or frostbitten, that's going to carry over, but any buffs they have will also carry over. This is really good for you because with your other star powers, since it's trying to have you double down on having the same type of unit attacking, this giving you an exact copy of your units is really, really good for you. Now the 3-star, when an ally attacks, grant everywhere with the same name 1/1 as opposed to just 1 power. So pretty nice, helping you scale up not only your power but also your health. Now the 4-star Phalanx, very good. When you target an ally, give it barrier this round. Now you have a lot of ways to target your own units, because if you remember, Ambessa has her midnight raid. You target an ally and it starts a free attack. Well, now that unit with the free attack has barrier, so it's going to survive that attack. With Ambessa's champion spell, you target an ally to strike an enemy, so then it now has barrier. Here with your conscription, you're targeting a unit, so they are then getting barrier, and you're then summoning a exact copy of it. So you're not only giving the unit you're targeting barrier, but then the copy of them that you're making also has barrier. So overall, very good power, great for keeping your units alive. You have your 5-star, get a mana gem. Then if you're 6-star, out of my way, when you attack with 10 or more total power, so among all your units, kill the strongest back row enemy. This is a very big 6-star because for one, you can trigger this even with like free attacks. As long as you're hitting that 10 power threshold, you're killing the strongest back row enemy. Now, there's almost no limitations on this. This isn't like the first time in a round you attack, and this isn't your strongest unit strikes the strongest enemy. No, it's just every time you attack, if you have 10 or more power, you kill the strongest back row enemy. Flat out, end of discussion. So if you attack multiple times, you're just going to be killing a whole bunch of enemy units. Now, that strongest back row enemy, this is important because if you then challenge a unit, they are then no longer in the back row. And so that's something to bear in mind. If you want to challenge a unit, so if you are using like Ambessa with her challenger and you grab the strongest enemy, then it's not going to get killed by this. In general though, when you attack, whatever units aren't being challenged, this will immediately go off, kill their strongest unit, and then they'll be able to block. And this is very good, scales very well, because the enemy, like if you've gone against Lysandra, has their giant watcher that they can drop. This will still just flat out kill it. It goes through spell shield because this isn't a spell or a skill. Very, very strong. Now, the one issue with this is sometimes it can take you a little while to get to that 10 total power. And so your 6-star might not really be activating for a round or two. So it does have that little bit of a weakness. But if you're going through an adventure, if you can start getting this to trigger in your very first round, this is incredibly strong. Now, as far as some bonus stars, 10 health and gold, solid. Support champ stuff Hunter's Machete. This is really good because every time you're attacking, you're buffing up all the units that are attacking and all other versions of those exact cards. So getting more attacks in is very good. And then the more you're attacking, every attack is contributing towards Ambessa's level up condition. So overall, pretty good power right here. Kato the Arm has Shadow Totem. So this is a way to give more units that overwhelm. Kato is in the starting deck. We'll get to that after the powers. Now, while this is a very good upgrade because Shadow Totem is excellent for you because you're having multiple copies of the same card attacking, which means they're buffing up each other and then all of the versions of that card. Kato, though, normally you don't actually play this. I have Ambessa at level 41. I don't think I've played this card a single time. Since it's a 5 cost, normally you're just ending the game before you even play this. But if your games are going off longer, this is a very good upgrade. But yeah, normally for Kato, you often just cut it. So a little sad right there. Next up, we have the Star of Wonder. Conscription has Mana Potion, so -1 cost. Really nice, just takes it from a 4 cost to a baseline 3 cost. Pretty solid. And then the rest of these upgrades are just your gemstones. Now, as far as the actual layout, so it starts right here at the bottom. So here you have your 1-star, 2-star, and then 3-star. And then down here out of the way, you have your 4th star. So it's not blocking off anything else. So that's really good. And then over here, we have your 5-star. And then after your 5-star is all of the gemstone upgrades. Good that they're out of the way, not blocking anything. So before your 5-star, you have 1 bonus node in order to get. And then all the way here at the end, you have your 6-star. So really nice that all of your later star powers, your 4, 5, and 6, are all out of the way. And so they're not blocking off any of the rest of the constellation other than the gemstones, but that shouldn't really be an issue. So overall, pretty well done constellation. Now, taking a look at the starting deck. So up first, we have the Blade Squire. So 1 cost, 2/1, Fearsome, Last Breath, Reforge. Now that Reforge is pretty important because when this dies, it creates one of these fragments. Now these fragments, while they are solid effects on their own, remember that if you have her at her 4 stars, you have the Phalanx. When you target one of your own units, you give it barrier. So this is just a very easy way to try to give some of your units barrier, which is pretty solid. We also have a 1 cost Cunning Sweep, stun an enemy, create a Sundering Slam in hand. This also has that predict, and it is fast. So giving you a little bit of control, and the fact that this is then creating another spell, so 3 cost, slow, stun an enemy. If it's already stunned, deal 6 damage to it. So another way you can have either some removal through spells, or you can be stunning essentially 2 targets with the Cunning Sweep and Sundering Slam, which is pretty good having that bit of flexibility. Now we also have Legion Drummer. So 2 cost, 3/2, support, give my supported ally quick attack, and this also has quick attack. So pretty good attack there. We have Legion Grenadier, 2 cost, 3/4, Last Breath, deal 1 to the enemy nexus, and has that extra draw. Kind of just a overall solid card. Not really anything crazy here, but solid stats for a 2 cost, and it's giving you a bit of draw. We have Rictus, and this is one of the stars of the show here in your deck. So 2 cost, 2/2 stat line, so that's solid. It has barrier, so you can use this as a solid blocker, and it has quick strike blade. So for 1, when you drop this, it's immediately attacking, it's buffing itself up from your star powers, so even though it has a 2/2 stat line, it's immediately getting bigger. It's then contributing towards your level up, because it has a free attack, and attack stun the strongest back row enemy. So then you're just immediately getting rid of their strongest target, essentially, from being able to attack. This is really good. Great to get multiple copies of this, so that even if you don't have overwhelm, if you have like 2 or 3 of these attacking and just stunning most of their board, this will really help out. This is a great card for you. Then we also have Legion Marauder. So this is a great 3 cost. So 3 cost with overwhelm, really good. Attack, grant allied Legion Marauders everywhere 1/1. So essentially, they have the star powers also on this card specifically. So every time they attack, the card effect is granting all of the copies of the card 1/1, but then your star powers are also doing the same thing. So this card can scale essentially twice as much as your other units. It gets that overwhelm, so that's really nice. And again, there's another card that getting multiple copies of this, so they all attack and are buffing everyone up, or all of their copies of themselves, by 2/2 for each one attacking. Very good. Also note that this is your 3 cost and your only 3 cost, so if you run something like Found Fortune on Ambessa, this is the card that's going to get hit. Now you have Ambessa as a 4 cost, then you have the Public Execution. So as you see here, this is her champion spell. It does get that Tear of the Goddess, slow speed, an ally strikes an enemy. If it dies, rally. Really good for just giving you some more removal and some more ways to get extra attacks in. And then we have Kato the Arm. Again, a solid card. This does get Shadow Totem from your Constellation, but honestly, you're normally going to cut this card. It's just too expensive most of the time. With Ambessa and all the attacks you're able to do, you can end the game pretty quickly. And so even though I have Ambessa at level 41, I have yet to play this card. Now let's take a look at some relics. Rerolls, always good for you. Overwhelm, this is actually one that is pretty solid and you probably want to put on your Ambessa. Pretty much anytime you have a open common slot, this is going to be very good for you. Star Child Staff, very general but good for everyone, so especially when you're starting out, this can really help you. Ambessa really can struggle with taking some damage early, and you don't really have any amount of sustain. So even though Ambessa can end the games very quickly, normally like your second round, you're just a little bit slower, and so enemies can often attack, get some good hits in, and so even if you end like the next round, you still took that damage, and over the course of an adventure, you might end up losing just because you constantly taking that chip damage. So the extra bit of sustain here is actually very nice. Lost Chapter can be nice in order to drop Ambessa and then immediately play your conscription that you're generating every round, but then also if you're trying to level up quickly, go in for one of the blessings to help that happen is always a good call. Now, as far as rare relics, going for Troll King's Crown can be nice. This is something that it's not quite as needed since you have other ways of generating overwhelm. Like in your Constellation, one of the nodes that was actually in with the gemstones or is hidden down there, even though you just unlock it with your normal Ambessa fragments or wild fragments, all followers you acquire in adventures, so any you get from like after battle rewards or the followers you get as part of your support package for other champions, they already get overwhelm, and then a lot of your targets in your deck also end up getting overwhelm. So while overwhelm is nice to have, you do have enough ways to get it, so going and giving all your units overwhelm isn't always needed, but this can still be solid for you. Grand General's Counterplan, this can be nice because Ambessa has a very strong champion spell of letting your unit get a strike off and getting a rally, so this is one that can be pretty nice to have. Berserker's Buckle, not terrible. When I survive damage, grant me 2/2. Since you have that barrier in your first attack, even though the barrier is blocking the damage, it still triggers Berserker's Buckle, so it can help you scale up a little bit more. And if you have Ambessa at your 6 stars, you want her to get to 10 power as soon as possible, so that every time, even if she attacks by herself, she's still triggering that kill on the enemy. Berserker's Buckle can help you get there. Stalker's Blade, this can be a pretty fun one. When I'm summoned, I strike the weakest enemy. She has 5 power, so that's a pretty good amount to probably get a kill, and this can help you trigger that Midnight Raid immediately. So you can drop her, she gets a kill, you immediately get a Midnight Raid to try to attack the enemy. Crown Guard Inheritance, this can be pretty fun if you just want to get as many attacks as possible. So when I level up Rally, and you need to be careful with this one and make sure you're not overriding the attack token, but you can have it so that you attack. If it's the 5th time you've attacked, she will then trigger this level up and rally, so you can then attack again. And when she flips over to her leveled up form, if she kills another enemy, she could rally again. So very easily, you could set up a combo to have 3 attacks in a single round, which you can actually make even further with things like if you also had her trigger her Midnight Raid in that round, if you also were able to get a kill with her champion spell. So you could just go for a full rally build with Crown Guard Inheritance, and that wouldn't be too bad. Condenser, this is a interesting one. Since you want to have so many copies of the exact same card, going for a condenser to get even more copies of a specific card that you want could actually be pretty helpful for you. And then even some stat relics like Warhammer, just to try to trigger especially that 10 plus power for your 6-star right away can be pretty good. And then stats in general aren't bad. Also going for Archangels. Now, Ambessa takes a little bit longer to get on the board, so this won't be triggering as much throughout the course of the game, but making sure you have mana to play your spells every round can be very good because you have very powerful spells to play. Taking a look at Epic Relics now, let's first look at her specific relic. So Twin Drakehound's Overwhelm. This isn't too bad. Now it's just giving her Overwhelm, but Overwhelm on Ambessa is pretty solid, so that's not bad. And then attack, deal 2 to the enemy nexus. If I've already attacked this round, deal 2 to all enemies as well. Now after playing this for a while, if you're playing against the high-end nightmares, this isn't really that big of a deal, to be honest. The 2 damage, even if you're attacking like 2 or 3 times in a round, isn't actually adding up to be that impactful. I think this could be pretty good if you are leveling up your Ambessa and you kind of rush to get a epic relic unlocked and you're able to use this. I think it could be really good in low-end adventures. I also think this will be really solid in like monthly challenges or specific weekly nightmares where they might have a modifier of all units summoned have like 1 health for you and the enemy. This could be pretty good for trying to clear the board. Or some of the modifiers like damaged units die at the end of the round. So specific modifiers like that, this could be really good for. In general, though, there's just a lot of better options. This, in my experience, is not her best in slot at all, sadly. Now, Beast Within, if you want to give all your units Overwhelm, that's great. You don't really have any subtypes, so you're just doing it for the Overwhelm, which is still a solid effect. Stack Deck, this can be pretty nice for you, especially in those longer adventures, because making sure all your units get a couple extra stats just means you can trigger your 6-star even earlier. And so getting that 6-star online, especially round 1, is a giant boost to your power. And so this one can really help you with that, which is quite nice. Spectral Scissors, this one is actually pretty good for you. So 2 power, support if my supported ally is a follower, grant it ephemeral and summon an extra copy of it attacking. Now that extra copy is going to count for your star powers to also boost up all other copies of that card. So that's really helpful. Also, this can contribute towards your 10 plus power for your 6-star. So overall, this is pretty solid. Now, the one bad thing is this is essentially killing your supported ally, which isn't really great with Ambessa. You normally want to keep your units alive and scaling. Killing the supported unit isn't the best, but it can be worth the trade-off. Next, let's take a look at Pack Powder, which can actually be pretty good for you if you pair it into a build like this. So going for like the Swain Relic to trigger 5 damage on the enemy. That gets your Plunder going, so she goes down in cost. Also, this increases her scaling. So this lets you drop Ambessa turn 1. And then going for a relic like the Twin Drakehound, so she immediately has that Overwhelm. So you can start attacking with her right away. Every round you damage the Nexus, you're able to get that extra scaling on your Ambessa. From the Twin Drakehound, since the attack is hitting the Nexus immediately, you're starting her scaling, helping you get to that 10 plus power. So Packed Powder can be pretty good if you have a build around it, specifically with like Swain's Raven Army, and then normally 1 relic that's going to give you some Overwhelm. Really good if you want to just focus on your Ambessa herself and have her kind of control and dominate the game for you. Living Weapon, pretty fun. Now, Ambessa doesn't hit the board as early, at least most of the time, but this can be a good one to try to get her some scaling, especially since you're normally going to get so many attacks in. So this is a fun way to just help her scale up a little bit faster. Now, Hidden Tome, this is another one that can actually be pretty good, especially if you build around it. So power, when you play or level a champion, refill your spell mana. With Ambessa, you do have some really good spells, and so being able to play those spells immediately can really help you out. One thing I like to do with this is pair it with Found Fortune. So draw the highest cost card that costs less than my base cost, grants an epic item, reduces cost to 0. When you drop your Ambessa, she'll then pull out your Legion Marauder, as long as you don't have any other 3 cost, which by default you don't. So you can drop Ambessa, you get your Legion Marauder, play it for free. When you play your Ambessa, you're refilling your spell mana, so you can then play your Conscription to then copy your Legion Marauder, and you can have both of them attacking. Normally when I use this, I also go for like the Echoing Spirit to get extra copies of your Ambessa, so you can make sure you can drop her as soon as possible. And then this also makes her champion spell cost less, and getting more copies of her champion spell is really good, because it's just giving you some more rallies. So this is like one example build that you can go for with Ambessa, especially if you want to focus on your other units. Death's Foil can be solid if you want to protect your Ambessa, but she does have barrier and you can trigger barrier more often with her 4th star. So I normally haven't really struggled with her dying, but if you are having that issue, Death's Foil can work for you. And then last up, we have Chosen by the Stars and Black Shield. For Black Shield, you are a very unit focused deck, so having a way to protect your units is very important. So Black Shield is helpful for that. And then Chosen by the Stars, nice to try to scale up your Ambessa. You do have ways to trigger your Fated and Augment so that it can help you scale up a little bit more. And then having the Overwhelm Honor is pretty solid as well. Now that's it for Ambessa. I do like that she does have a lot of really interesting builds. You can go for builds where you just focus more on playing her and she just absolutely dominates for you. So you can actually play her very similarly to like a Vayne, or you can really focus on your units and just have all of them scale up together. And so there is some good versatility in how you are playing her. But that's it for the in-game portion. Let's go take a look at what powers you want to keep an eye out for, what champions you want to pick up as your supports, some cards to look out for, and finish up with her rankings. All right, taking a look at powers now. So up first, we have Stabilize. When you summon a champion, summon a exact ephemeral copy of it. This is really nice for a couple different reasons. For one, with your Ambessa, every one of them has the individual power of when they kill an enemy, they summon a Midnight Raid. So if you have multiple Ambessas attacking and each one of them gets a kill, you can actually make multiple Midnight Raids. But also this is just being able to attack with the exact same unit over and over again. So with Ambessa, if you have 2 of them attacking, each one of them is triggering your star powers to buff up all versions of that card. So again, attacking with the same card, very, very helpful. So this is great just for anytime you can get exact copies of the same card. So it's great for Stabilize, but if you also see like Shadow Totem on any units, definitely pick that up. Really, really good. Slow but Steady, this is fantastic. When you play a slow spell, copy it on the same targets. With Ambessa, you have a lot of very good slow spells, including your champion spell and your conscription that you're making potentially every round. So Slow but Steady is fantastic for you. Seat of Power then, game starts, summon a Emperor's Dais. Now, any of the abilities that are able to create cards every round or at game start, kind of less the Poros one because that gives you different units potentially every time, but any of the ones that are generating the same card is so good for you because every time you're attacking, you're then buffing up all versions of that card. So the 2 that summon the 2 units at the game start, like the Vanguard Lookouts and the Gearheads, those ones are okay because it's giving you some units that can attack and keep scaling, but once they're dead, they're gone because you can't really make more of them unless you use your conscription, and some of them survive. But any of the ones that are summoning like a sapling every round is really good. But also here, the Seat of Power, the Emperor's Dais, because every time you attack, which you can do a lot with all your rallies, you're then having this Sand Soldier attack alongside you. And every time it attacks, it's then buffing up all versions of that card, so all future Sand Soldiers are then even stronger. So any of the time you can summon units, it's good, but anytime you can summon it at round start or here when you're attacking, it is excellent. Next up then we have Fixer Upper. Round start, give your weakest ally 3/3 this round. Always a solid general power, but really good if you have Ambessa at her 6 stars, because this is just getting you even closer to hitting that 10 power threshold. So this is a good one to pick up, especially if you have her at 6 stars. Memory Game, this can be pretty good because you can choose what card you want to get a copy of next round. And with Ambessa, you're all about having the same card attacking. And so you can pick a card and then play that the next round. So you get another copy of it on the board. So you can just further scale up that version of the card. This is pretty good for that. Sorcery, round start, refill your spell mana. Again, solid, so you could play your conscription every single round. And if you have Ambessa at 4 stars, when you play that conscription, you're getting that unit to have barrier. So overall, very good for you. Last up then, Domination, round start, rally. So good for putting the pressure on the enemy. This helps your scaling even more since that triggers when you attack, and this is helping you level up your Ambessa even faster. Trifarian Might, when you summon a 5+ power ally, it strikes the weakest enemy. A lot of your units are being able to hit that 5+ power by default, so that's really good. But then even those units that can't, once you get like a attack or 2 in, then other copies of that card should be able to hit this Trifarian Might. So then if you drop another copy of it later, they can then get that strike off. And then last up, we have Crush, Allies of Overwhelm. Again, not quite as needed as it is for many other decks, and often you can get this with your relics, but especially while you're leveling up, this can be a pretty good one to pick up. Next, let's take a look at support champions. As always, not an exhaustive list, but just some features to look for when you're evaluating support champions. So up first, we have extra attacks, whether this is a free attack, scout attack, rallies, any of those, very good to keep an eye out for. Then we have duplicate units, so any champion that likes to play the same card or have the same card attack for you is excellent. And then last up, we have allied targeting. This is especially when you have have Ambessa at 4 stars, since when you target your own units, you give them barrier. So up first, we have Riven. Riven is great for targeting your own units with that reforge mechanic. Also, Riven has some of the same cards you have in your support package, and overall just a very solid champion that you can play for just 3 mana and fits very well with what you're already trying to do. We have Elise, great for being able to have a lot of the duplicate units because she is all about her spiderlings, so being able to get a lot of them attacking and then all scaling up is very good for you. And we also have Aurelia. She is great for, again, being able to attack with all your blades because they will scale up so quickly, but then she also has a lot of free attacks, which is great for you as well to further help your scaling as well as leveling up your Ambessa. For some cards to look out for, Glory Seeker right here, very good for you. It already has Overwhelm baseline, but then it also has Shadow Totem, so that you're going to get 2 copies of this card. When they both attack, they're then buffing up all future versions, including themselves. Opulent Foyer. Now this is something that for all these cards, especially these 2 in the middle, you're not necessarily looking for this exact card, but just some of the things you want to look for when you're evaluating cards. So this one, when I'm summoned, summon a Ghastly Band. Round start, if you have the attack token, summon a Ghastly Band, and this had Home Turf on it. So this is a landmark that's giving you the same unit throughout the entire game, and it's giving it when you have the attack token, so it can keep attacking and keep scaling up to be bigger and bigger. We also have the Blighted Caretaker, Overwhelm, Colossal Hammer, and play Kill an Ally to summon 2 saplings. Now, a little rough that is killing one of your units, but the fact that it's summoning 2 saplings so they can both attack and both scale up can be pretty good for you. And then we have the Ruined Reckoner. When I'm summoned, create a Midnight Raid in hand. So that is the free attack once again. So really you're looking for any units that are going to give you either extra attacks, or they can summon multiple of the same card to be able to just further scale and put a lot of pressure on the enemy. Now, as far as her overall rankings, I think before level 20, while you're leveling her up, she's a solid A tier champion. And I think after level 20, while she is stronger, she's kind of scaling up with everyone else. So I think she's still a solid A tier champion. Now, I will say that in the A tier, she's pretty high up there. And I think there's an argument to be made that she could even be up in the S tier. I don't know if she's quite there myself, but she's definitely near the top of A. But don't feel quite confident yet putting her all the way in the S tier, but she is very high up there. As far as her pros, she's very well-rounded, so she can do a lot in game. She has good removal in multiple different ways. She has good ways to protect her own units. She has some decent control with your Rictus, as well as your 2 spells, or your 1 spell that can generate 2 spells to stun the enemy. So she can do a lot, and so overall very well-rounded champion. Also very consistent. With Ambessa, your games often can play out fairly similarly, and you can consistently end on like turn 3 and 4. So overall just very well done, well-rounded, and balanced champion. Now as far as the cons, you can be weak to control. You are a very unit-focused deck, so if the enemy can stun, frostbite, kill, or just remove or like recall your units, that's really going to hurt you. So if you're going into a control deck, you definitely can struggle. Also, you lack really any form of sustain. So one thing I noticed that Ambessa would struggle with, especially early on when leveling her, is just taking a lot of damage in like the 2nd or 3rd round and not being able to really mitigate that at all, because if the enemy had some way to like frostbite or control stun your units, you didn't really have too much that you could do. Now she could normally end the round after, but in those first couple rounds she sometimes can struggle to really mitigate some of the enemy aggression. And so sometimes there was adventures where even though I was ending pretty early on, every match I was still taking too much damage, so that it just ended up chipping me throughout the entire course of the adventure. And even though she was feeling really strong, she would actually end up dying sometimes and needing to use her revive. So a lack of sustain definitely can be a bit of an issue for you. Overall though, very strong and fun champion. As far as her regional rankings, I think she is at the top. I think Swain is still above her, but I think she is 2nd best in the region overall. That is it for the guide though. I hope this was able to help you out. If it did, a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.